Disclaimer. The information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GAN's processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.
Good welcome, everybody. Welcome to the North American Knowledge Team meeting here. I want to welcome Randy as a co-host, and Gail as a co-host, and
Elias.
Ready to go.
Then when I explain to you, when you put a food in your mouth, you are just an attraction point. You are now have created a condition for your life, for your body to attract that little fields which come from outside. In a way, you have set the seed of absorbing fields. This is your dimension of physicality, and you have a big stomach. In the stomach, when you put the food, as I explained many times, when you eat, all you do, you set the small seed of, in a way, by body of the man, converting the food into a nanomaterial in the stomach and then change it into a gas, which creates a small field. Now you have created the condition for absorbing the fields of the universe into you. 80% of your energy which you absorb to run this physical condition. And in the process of the digestion, where it goes, how fields are interacted, decides what kind of diseases you will get. This is why the new technology in health, in the space technology, by changing the environment of this condition, just creates the fields. And the body, in respect to getting it from possibly the cosmic rays, as a source to change, to develop, to repair. Then you'll come to understand in the future, one of the most important things for man will be, going back to what we just said, is that the brain of the man will change its shape to spherical. The shape we see, our shape of our brain will 100% change as we go into this process. If you look at the pictures of the magnetic field of the Earth, you have Earth, you have the direction of the flow of the field of the sun, and if you look, we have a tailwind. Because the strength of the field facing. pushes the fields backward. Now, isn't this the shape of the brain of the man? But in that tailwind, the shape of our brain has changed to this shape. So what do we absorb in the direction of fields? From the frontal view, from the face side, that pushes our brain to be extended slightly to the back. What fields from the cosmos we receive on the tail end and the front end. And how these affects the emotion, the physicality of the man in the process of the creation in his life.
So, are there any comments on that?
Yes, I wonder when he says it's like a tailwind. There was such a little round circle. Is that the sun in front of the face of the brain with the brain?
That little circle?
Well, I mean, probably because he didn't have room to put anything else. But I just wanted
I think it was representative, yes, of the sun.
Yeah, okay.
And the relationship of the sun with the earth. And so that relationship was transposed to being the sun with the brain. So it's the same thing. It manifests a tailwind behind.
The
And
sun
so
that we see every day in the sky.
with respect to the earth, creates a tailwind on the backside of the earth.
Okay.
So as the earth turns, the sun is always emitting onto a different surface on the earth. And so that would be the front. So the front is always changing because the earth is rotating. And so the tailwind is on the backside of the earth, regardless of what position it is. But with respect to our brain, we don't rotate. We are always getting this input from. However, I think there's another intermediary, and this is one of the things that I talked about as well in the past, the emotion of knowledge, where that information is coming to us. But because we're in the physicality, we're interpreting and manifesting that. And so this tailwind is a manifestation of the physicality.
Right. Shape of our brain. It sort of follows the tailwind.
Yes, exactly. So the proposed change that's coming is actually going to have a physiological change. And so this is why this is relevant, of course, is we're all focusing on the November 11th meeting, and it's coming up next Saturday. And there are going to be profound changes, and that's one of the things that I wanted to discuss with the group today, because we're at a pivotal moment, and it's not to be overly dramatic. It's actually impossible to be overly dramatic about this. As we draw energy from different sources, we will actually change our physiology. So the physiology that we're exhibiting, or the conformity that we're exhibiting right now, is very much matter state, small m matter state manifest, which I call materialization. And so everything that we're doing is as a result of that. And we are ignoring the fact that there is energy that's coming from the universe, which created us in the first place. And that is the one that we should be focusing on, because that is the predominant one. And so this becomes a very pivotal change because the competition is between the physicality and the soul. And we shouldn't really have that competition because we should be understanding and adapting more to the correct way of performing. But the rate of change is not keeping up with the rate of understanding. So what we have is an abandonment of the understanding as we go along in so many cases.
Because it's too much lag of time, or
Well, if you look at man's history, we've always had wars.
oh yes.
So these wars transcend generations. And a question that was raised earlier was when you look at the hands of time on your stopwatch or in your wristwatch, we talk about hours, minutes, and seconds. But when we look at the pyramids or the Stonehenge or the Sphinx, the Zodiac, it's in 2,160 year increments. Well, who keeps track of that time? This has always been a question of mine because, you know, it's fun to go look at these monuments and say, well, they represent 2,160 ages, no, or years per age, 12 different ages, each one 2,160 years apart. So who's keeping track of that? Because a generation is, you know, between 60 and 120 years, let's say, as we look at it. And when we look at a paradigm shift, we talk about a generation of only 20 years. So if you take 20 and divide it in 2160, you know, that's a big number. And it's beyond all of us here. So what do we care? And the caring comes down when we don't learn from our history. That's the whole purpose of having history, so that we don't make the mistakes again, right?
Exactly.
So one of the ways to stop the objections to the presence and the present interpretation of the history is to eliminate the present. And so war is very handy in that because they can kill a lot of people very quickly. But we're in an era now where we have more access to history. And I compare it when I was a student, the history that was very relevant to our generation was World War II. And the way we were taught about World War II was totally different from the viewpoint that I have today with respect to World War II.
Mm-hmm.
And I think all of us share that. Would you agree?
100%. Alex, I remember, you know, there were one or two really good movies, and I swore to myself I would never forget such a thing that happens, you know, like how war perpetuates itself. But the one thing that really shocked the living daylights out of me is that one family supplied both sides with weapons, arms. It was just a money-making scheme for one group.
Well,
So
this
both
is it.
sides, yeah, it was not a joke, but it slaps you. It's like a slap in the face when you suddenly realize, oh my God, what is really going on? Now we know.
So humanity becomes, dumbed down to being a commodity, a financial
Exactly.
transaction. And we're only looking at the meat portion of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just, I try to, explain to my stepdaughter. And I said, well, you know, what happens when you walk into the room and you've got all these people with nefarious ideas. What are they thinking? And I said, you have to understand it. You're fresh meat. And she looked at me like I was, crazy, and it was so funny. The youth feel like they're so street smart.
Oh, yeah.
And so one day she came to work. Not we were working, and then she came running in, and she says, "Oh, there's a stalker," and he was driving a car. And I said, "Well, did you have the make of the car?" "No." "Did you get the license plate?" "No." And said, and you're so street smart, are you? And so there's no description, just a black vehicle. I see. And you're equidistant between the police station and here. Why did you run here? And she says, "Well, I wanted to run away from them, so I came to my parents."
Wow.
"Well, you should have gone to the police, and you should have had the stalker follow you all the way there, right? Wouldn't that be the best thing to do?"
Was that a teenager without a cell phone?
As a matter of fact, not. No, she had a cell phone. But it's kind of indicative. We were looking at the cell phone as a social tool, and not as a safety net. That was the whole, in my mind anyway. That was the main reason to have a cell phone, is so that you can, call for help when you're in need. But we use that as a form of entertainment. But I thought kids would be more street smart, and yet here in a real life situation, and they don't understand. This is in an adult world, this is how some adults think. And through her we met a lot of other girlfriends, and several of them have had to leave town, just simply because of the abuse. This is the reality. So this is what I keep saying. Well, it's all it's like a meat market. It's all fresh meat, and people have to look at it that way, because there's someone profiting on that basis. And I've never subscribed to that theory. I don't think it's right. And which leads me to the next video. Would you be all right if I carried on?
Please, yes, thank you.
Now, what I'd like to do, Gail, so you're here, right? And you're not having any internet problems today, which is amazing.
For the moment, yes.
Are you able to read the screen from your position? Because I'd like you to do the narrative.
Okay.
You don't mind I put you on the spot, do you?
You're very good at doing that. It's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, you're a very good candidate for that. Everybody wants to keep hearing my voice. So the cue cards will come up.
Okay. Ethos of Kesh Foundation. Oh, this is beautiful. Ethos can be talked about in a lot of ways. It's not just following rules, it's having a connection to one's own inner being or soul. When you have that, it lets you know if you are doing right or wrong. It's that little voice inside us that tells us to do the right thing. In fact, we all know it, but some of us are better at covering it up than others. People who are really open in the heart cannot lie, cheat, or steal from others. The soul will tell them in such a strong way that they are following the wrong path or the wrong voices. When you allow yourself to feel the pain of others, then you don't need rules. The rules are written on your heart. Do not do to others that which you would not want to be done to yourself. It's so simple. There is another thing that opens up when you follow the ethos of the heart. You feel a lot of joy and you don't want anything back in return. You just open to the communion of souls. Basically, you share the fields. The thing is in the way there. So ethos, something hard, the truth about, what is hard is to face the truth about our lives, how we think, how we speak, and the way we act. When we come in tune with our inner being, our soul, then everything changes in our life. A sense of peace, feeling contentment, experiencing unconditional love, maybe for the first time. The desire to give and to receive both the yin and the yang, magnetical and gravitational. This is the ethos of the KAKT Foundation that we try to share and spread around this planet, which is actually the ethos of the universal community. And it is by following this ethos that we will be able to join the universal community. So beautiful. Obrigado. Thank you. Wow.
Thank you, Gail. That was beautiful.
Yeah, I'm just
And
looking.
If you
yes,
can send me the MP4 of that, maybe I can do a voiceover.
That'd be nice.
yeah, certainly this was obviously prepared by the Brazilian community. And you can see by the social networking that they do, that they're a lot more successful with the KAKT Foundation than we are here in North America. And, if we just depended on the North American group here, we wouldn't be that strong. But, we are represented by all continents on this meeting. And this is what makes it so strong. And the thing is, this class started in the private sessions, and that wasn't very successful because people, don't have time to be students sometimes, or they don't want to pay the €100 or whatever.
Mhm.
So we were forced to do more public classes, and the public classes aren't in as much detail as the private sessions. But this is one of the reasons that I've tried to do more detail in these classes. It's one of the reasons the meetings go as long as they do. And I don't know if I'll be able to perform the review today because I've changed systems. But we can forego that. The thing is, we are at a pivotal time where we have to clearly understand the difference, and we cannot worry about those who don't attend. We only have to concern ourselves with those who do, because all of us are students and all of us are going to be teachers. And so we have to go forward, as we did in the previous video, shall we say, towards the light and not towards the tailwind. This is a key point. So what's at the tailwind? The tailwind is the physicality, and what's at the front is the ethos. And so now we're not only at the point of changing this relationship, but we're talking about the universal community. So that has to be incorporated in our psyche. That, when we say we're not alone, well, we are alone in our physicality, really, but in our souls, we're not alone. And this is what we have to understand. So we have a dilemma on how we're going to do this, and this is one of the things I wanted to talk about today. Uh, just as an example came into my mind was that when you look at the shape of a car, and the designers are all looking at the wedge shape where it's kind of pointed at the front and bigger at the back, and the truth is it's backwards. The cars are shaped backwards. It should be bigger at the front and pointy at the back. And this is exactly the drawing that Mr. Kesh drew. And the designers knew this because they ran through the wind tunnel experiments, and they knew that the cars were designed backwards. But they couldn't change because the design of the car affects the sales, and the sales affect the profit. So they didn't want to change the design, what people really liked. And, I come to the problem, and even I personally have this problem. I look at a fancy car, and I might get a little excited about it, and then I kind of shake my head and I say, well, yeah, but that's old technology. How excited would I be if I had a spaceship? It can compare, but it's out of our range. Well, not anymore. Not after next week. It will be square in our range. It'll be at the crosshairs of our scopes. And this is the thing. How do we make this change from the physicality to our ethos and be ethos driven? How is it possible that the United Nations issues a ceasefire order and that this is ignored? That means the United Nations is impotent. So, they're supposed to represent the universal community on this planet. And they're an astounding failure. Plain to see, isn't it? So, what are we going to do about that? And who's this we? So it's up to the knowledge seekers to do this. Because it seems to be fairly obvious that the universal community of this planet can't do it. And the universal community of the universal community can't do it. So it's left up to us. And so this is where it comes down to the point where we're the last man standing. And do we do this with guns? No. Because the history tells us so. So if you want to do things better, you don't do the same thing and expect a different result. And generation after generation, we've been at war. And so this is the time for peace. That's what it's all about. We're trying to begin this peace process. And you can't just work with this peace treaty just on paper. That's physical. It doesn't really mean anything. Would anybody be interested in reading the World Peace Treaty? To the World Peace Treaty, we as citizens of Earth from this moment on accept to lay down all tools of aggression and war. We shall never think about getting involved or incite war or develop or use any tools of war on this planet or in space. And to this, we all agree and swear, with whether we're part of a nation, a territory, a council, a religion, a city, a town, a body, or soul. We sign it, witness it, and after signing this treaty, be proud to display this certificate wherever you consider it being important to you, that everyone can see and know your ethos to fellow men and to mankind and other creatures, the created beauties of the Creator. We are at a pivotal time, as I said, repeatedly, and I would like to just do a slight deviation because we want to, well, as a matter of fact, just a moment, before we do this deviation, oh, I know what, I don't have it on this list. So what I'd like to do can anyone identify this man?
I've seen the face, but I can't put a name to it.
This is Andrew, I guess, Brigden. He's a member of Parliament in England, and he is probably just down the road of where we're going to have the meeting in London this week. And what's interesting is that I've been trying to go over the list of potential candidates in the Canadian or American governments who, you know, might benefit from and want to come to this meeting. And I confess I've come up with a blank. And then something happened yesterday, and this gentleman made an appeal. Well, would you like to hear it?
Yes,
5 minutes.
please. Yes.
Hello, my friends, and thank you for joining me here at Breedon-on-the-Hill Church. As you know, this place is very special to me, and it's not unlike thousands of other beauty spots which dot across the landscape of our nation, which means so much to local people, grounding them in a deep sense of place that is both unique and universal. This church is most famous really for two things: the view you can see as far as Nottingham on a clear day, and the rare Saxon carvings. A monastery was built here when the Kingdom of Mercia was at the height of its powers, with some very beautiful carvings which we've retained today. In the 10th century, the Kingdom of Mercia and the other Anglo-Saxon kingdoms united to form a new nation, England, or Angelander, the land of the Angles, a nation that has stood proudly for centuries, weathering changes, celebrating victories, always moving together, moving forward. But now, our nation stands on a precipice, unfortunately, of our own making. We have allowed globalists with no care for our nation, but for the nations of our brothers and sisters around the world, to buy their way into the command structures of our countries, and they seek now to transform the vibrant colours of our nations into one bland and uniform shade of grey. They poison our blood with untested medical products. They poison our bodies with food drenched in pesticides. They poison the minds of our children by spreading the nonsense that men can be women and women can be men. They poison our very freedom by trying to take away the energy that we heat our houses with, we light our way with, that's driven our progress throughout the centuries, and package it up and redistribute it to us as they see fit. And the politicians you elect to represent our nations assist them in their mission, which is nothing less than the murder of those nations. But things are changing fast. The control mechanisms of these globalists are actually a house of cards glued flimsily together by the compliance of the masses in ignorance of their true power. The overreach of COVID has slapped many of us, myself included, wide awake. Movements around the world are saying no and reaching back to their own nations, and realise if they rest on their own sovereignty, the house of cards can easily be pulled apart. As more people wake up, the more these billionaires and their pet bureaucrats realise that their power and their control is actually slipping away. Since that control is actually based in fear, it's their natural instinct to dial it up on us, to redouble their efforts. So you must learn, we must learn, to live our lives without fear. We need to laugh, to live and to love in the face of adversity. There is nothing to fear from a virus that kills at approximately the same rate as annual influenza. There's nothing to fear about climate change, because the climate has always changed. And as they shepherd us towards a third world war, how will fear help us if that nightmare comes to pass? The only thing you should be afraid of is a future planned by globalists, whose project requires your compliance and has no room for your links to special places like this. These people will not relinquish their power easily or lightly. We're going to be in for a bumpy ride. But when it's over, and it will be over, we will be able to build a new nation, something better than we had before. The Saxon kings and queens and countless English men and women fought and died so you and I could live in a nation that was prosperous, safe and free. The globalists have a different plan for our future, but all we have to say is we will not comply. All we have to say is no. And their plans are dead and buried. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Where'd you find that jewel?
Well, this is the problem, in North America, there's no censorship. That came out of England.
Please send that to me. Now, I just got this morning from my friends in England. The British government has agreed to hand over full control of its tax sovereignty to the World Economic Forum. The world-run, WF-run OECD, I don't know what that means, is set to introduce a global minimum tax on firms in both the US and UK under a program called Pillar 2. So that guy, that's very interesting. He's very open-minded. Absolutely, he should go to the meeting.
And he's a member of the British Parliament. And, his name is Andrew Brigden, Bridgen. So you understand the timing and how sensitive everything is, and why this meeting is so important, because things are going to change next week, and the problem that we're having, of course, is that as the time starts to run out and as people get more desperate, one of the things that happens is that we start to look at desperate measures. And what would be a desperate measure? Well, it would be a nuclear war, wouldn't it? And one of the problems with the nuclear understanding of the nuclear wars is, of course, that plasma reactors are of a higher energy level than the nuclear. And so this has been kind of the base of the resistance, if you will, with respect to what we've been doing. Because the plasma reactors are nuclear.
Today is the 14th of April 2014. For the first time in public, we show the first nuclear reactor which has flown, it has lifted using gravitational magnetic field. There are two reactors. These two reactors have been tested in 2008 in Tehran, and they both lift and fly. This reactor has been captured a number of times in flight. So for the first time in public, we show the gravitational magnetic field reactors, which literally, this is the very first one, except a different base. The base was destroyed in testing, it was rebuilt. But this is the original double core half reactor used for space technology without reversal of polarity. Weighs less than 14 kilogram. This one weighs less than 2 kilogram, and it has double core, free rotating internal core. This one has a reserve tank. The two have been fully tested with nuclear material before. Now there are no nuclear material, we're testing them with nano layers and composite nano layers. This has a special configuration. We cannot open internally the structure for certain reasons you might understand. But from today, the star formation for the space reactor technology is complete. And I would like to thank the Iranian government for allowing this to be shown in public for the first time. This is considered one of the edge of science technology reactors. The original one, you can see, is very dirty, it's been well used. And the whole process will be shown live from now on. What we do, we have a reactor which sits in the center. This is the one which was made for peace, World Peace Treaty, for the April, for power generation. This reactor will take its position at 120 degrees, marked on this position. And the second one should sit at this position of 120 degrees, somewhere here. Or we put it here temporarily. And the third one should be coming in to sit somewhere here. So the three reactors will take their place, and from today you can watch it live, what is happening and how the performance will be. This is the first time that the star formation reactor has ever been done outside the territory of Iran. So we start and wish you all the best with the new technology and the new opening for mankind. Thank you.
Any comments?
This is probably what he's going to show as a much improved version on the 11th of November.
Well, yes, definitely. And but I think you can see that how critical the timing is. And I think if you recall the date, that this was 2014.
7 years.
2014, Gail. Hello.
Oh, sorry, 9. Oh my God. Too much.
And the previous disclosure was done in 2011 when the flying car was supposed to be demonstrated, and that was suppressed, right?
Yes.
So this that was what was it 12 years ago. So anyway, this is where the sense of urgency is coming in. This is the whole point of the discussion. And so things are going to change. Things are going to change within the week. And that's the whole message that we're trying to go through today, to see how these things are going to change.
Very much. That brought back a lot of memories, Rick. This was done in the education side of our home in the Sansano. And it has brought a lot of changes. We see the development and delivery of the next cycle of what I call a space flight system to be done in conjunction between Iranian military and Chinese military in the space in the coming weeks. It'll be amazing to see how technology, even being the same, has leaped forward by hundreds of years in 10 or 15 years. We, for example, in this configuration, you saw things going on the floor, and it was the beginning of the setup. Later on in tests, we managed to create 129 Tesla. And then in the same lab, every night when we ran these systems, when we switched off the lights, the fluorescent tubes on the ceiling that we used to dance, we used to switch the light up and watch how the fields from these reactors interact with the fluorescent lights, and we had a light show every night, more or less, for 5 or 10 minutes, till all the plasmas in the room were used by the tubes. If you look in a deeper way, at the moment you see these pipes, the blue pipes going in. The new systems which will be introduced will be controlled by thoughts. Means what I do, what I think, I'll control. In a way, you call it interaction of the soul. And it'll be interesting to see how it will change the characters of the people around it. It will be interesting to understand how this feels. If you understand it now, there is a third reactor already on this table, which is the soul of the presenter, which at that time it could not explain to discuss. When you look at the star formation, the soul of the man is an operating live system in that system. It's a controller. Your emotion controls a lot of it, and a lot of people could not and still cannot understand. But now that we have shown the working of the systems in lens, a lot of you understand you are the sun when you sit in that system. You're not just a soul. When we put you in the head unit, your soul is the sun, is dictator of the whole thing. The expansion, the control is totally dictated by it and its emotions. And it's the same with here. That's why many tests I did, it could not be replicated, because I cannot explain. I'm using the power which is within. As I said, man is too physical. You see, this is the new, what we call a space center in of the Keshe Foundation. When you sit in these units, even the head unit, your soul is the dictator of the change within your physicality. You will see many of these centers to open up around the world. The center and the system will openly shown in public in Macau, what we call a conference, where we allow people in the conference to personally test the system, the scientists from around the world. And it's interesting for the whole understanding of the creation is within the system. It needs a wise man to see and a wise man to know how to use it. These systems, as you see, are more or less obsolete compared to what now has been produced and sitting in. Most of you who joined the what we call July session were connected to that system. Only one part, these systems were connected to, and we saw a lot of you showing a lot of emotion and changes using this in one of the sessions. All these systems were connected to all of you. We were.
And these systems are obsolete. So this is the advance of the technology, and it's causing alarm in some cases because it's representing a paradigm shift. in the way we do things on this planet. So the key point, of course, is that the soul acts like the sun in terms of navigation. Does anyone else have any comments?
In the previous video, when he showed the reactors, the one that was on a stand is exactly a larger version of the miniature, what he called the GANS reactor in the Foundation store. He's given us everything. But like he said, there's a different reactor in there, and that's the presenter. That's the soul energy of the presenter. So anybody could build anything, but if the soul isn't interacting with any of these systems, nothing's going to work. Wouldn't that be true?
No, I think so.
So when was the conference in Macau? Has it happened yet?
Yes, it has, and I'm still looking for the details on that one. And
Was that after the big conference in China, or was that the one?
That was the one.
Okay.
That was the big conference. Yeah. So I think we have to put this all in context, because we're on a spaceship, and this spaceship is our planet Earth, and it has a soul. And so we have to understand how we connect to that. And we do connect to that. But, you know, as we said, the planet keeps turning around, and we're on that planet. So we are always linked up to that planet. We don't get our brains scrambled as the Earth spins around. We're at one, and we're at peace with it. And that planet understands peace. That's how it was created, and it was here before us. It had to be, because you can't go nowhere. You have to go somewhere. So it had to be here first. And so in order to get here, we had to connect with the Dome of Peace. And why is it called the Dome of Peace? And because that's the only way that you can navigate through the universal community. But we have a different form of navigation on this planet, only because we have been relinquishing our acceptance of the Dome of Peace. And so we are working towards that, and we're doing it every day. And the thing that you have to understand, and I want to emphasize, is we started by spreading the GANS water. But it's not like you have to go to church, or you have to go to the washroom, or you have to go to the restaurant. You don't stop what you're doing to interact. You are always interacting.
This is what came in and what is now become a pattern. This from a guy, I don't know him, but he says, please remember this Sunday and every Sunday from now on, till we raise the soul of this planet to a peaceful planet. Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers worldwide will spread the GANS waters around the world at 12 p.m. Central European Time and or 18 p.m. Central European Time every Sunday at the same time as they choose which time to suit them. Thank you for participating in this greatest movement by the soul of the man to bring about the peace on this planet as the permanent feature of the life of this planet.
So we understand that that's the purpose of advancing the technology, is to bring peace. But some people fight for peace. And that's kind of an oxymoron. You bring peace with peace. And we do this from the top down through the interconnection with the souls, the interaction, the plasmatic interaction of the souls. And there are souls who are very happy to hear this, and there are souls who are seriously unhappy to hear this. And so we're coming to this crisis point where time's running out. And when time starts running out, then people start getting desperate. And that desperation, as I said earlier today, was that, we're looking at a nuclear option. Well, trust me, the Earth and its dome of peace are not interested in that particular option. And so, is there another option after that option? And right now, the world is not exactly knowing that there is an option. But we're in the post-December 16th, 2022 era, where we can now make choices. But we have to redo our history and understand that there was a problem in 2014, and there was a problem in 2011. And so where they suppressed the technology in 2011, and in 2014, we had some serious life-threatening issues on this planet, and they were dealt with mysteriously. But before I go into that, I want to mention that there's a sequence of events that is happening. And the first sequence of events is front and center. The London conference, the London and Fourth Ambassadors meeting. And we're on the doorstep. It starts tomorrow and runs all week. And the world's not going to be the same afterwards. And the question that I put to all the people on the panel today is, how is that going to affect your life? Are you ready for the change, or can you be ready for the change? I don't even think I'm ready for the change. Not physically, anyway. Before I carry on, are there any comments on that?
I think most of us that have been working with this, we've always adapted to everything that we do. And I've noticed lately that, I've made different batches, and I sent a batch of GANs to a lady, and she sent me an email back this morning. She said, well, why is one discolored? One's a different color. So I had to tell her that each batch you make of GANs is different. Even though you're making the same thing, the batch is different, depending on your intentions of the day, the environment, and everything else. So with all these things coming up in this London conference, those of us that are more sensitive than others to this energy, we will feel it. I know that full moons really affect me. Solar storms really affect me. As a kid, I used to tell my dad, it's going to rain tomorrow. Well, how do you know? I said, my bones ache. I don't know why, but if my bones ache, the rain is coming. So what's that? A storm is magnetics. And what are we studying? Magnetics, electrical, plasmatic energy. And we're all plasma. Everything is plasma. So when that technology is released from a presenter whose energy field is probably very huge, it's going to affect everything. Would you not agree?
Oh, that's easy for me to say yes. Does anyone else have any comment?
Yeah, I feel that I know there are people who will be very excited and happy about it. And I hope that people are wise enough to see if someone is trying to misuse and abuse and the usual, grab it while you can and take it from everybody. So I think we'll have a lot of that. We'll have two kind of reactions to it. And I keep on telling some of the young people, be aware, what's happening. Don't take everything at face value, those kinds of things. I wish we could have courses on social engineering and how it can be used, by those who want to confuse us, let's say. That's just my thought. Thanks.
No, that's a very important point. I'm glad you brought that up because we do need classes on that. Because what is the major educational instrument that we have, for our youth today? And it's, YouTube, it's TikTok, it's, a couple of other what they call social media channels. And, they're not so smart. Just like I said, when the daughter was being stalked by a predator and she didn't know how to react. She always told me how street smart she was. Well, there is the product of the street education. It's not strong enough.
Not at all. I have a problem here. Some of the kids, they're like my little children in a way because I've known them for so long. They were very small, and they just don't get. I see a car, and this is a rural area, and I see a car at the school, and I'm thinking, what the heck? At the bottom of the field, not at the top. And I am trying to conscientize. They just don't get it that anybody would be able to do anything. Oh no, don't worry. It's daytime or whatever. So we really, really, really need to help to get kids aware.
I remember a situation in my life when I was 4 years old. And, my mother was adamant, the mantra was never take candy from a stranger.
Absolutely.
So, right. I didn't understand what that meant. And, the candy festival just passed on October 31st. They called Halloween. But I was in the front yard playing, and I was addressed 3 times, asked if I would like some candy. And the one of them asked me twice. So one asked and another asked, and then the first one asked again. And I said no every time. But when the first guy came around and asked me twice, then I ran in to see my mother, and I told her what was happening, and she was quite alarmed, and she says, remember what I told you, don't take candy from a stranger. And I said, yes, Mom, I remember. And I said no. And, she was quite relieved about that, but I was 4 years old. What do I know? And, I'm looking at a teenager and they didn't know how to react. And so somehow this message is not coming through. So you talk about social engineering and education on social interactions. Yeah, we're going to need that, because some of us know that automatically from this emotion of knowledge that comes to the soul, and others, need to be told, need to be shown, and then maybe they will engage, link up with the higher energy fields. We have a special thing happened on, how's this going to work? Oh, it does work. Here we go. Special thing happened on Thursday. I'll draw your attention to it. Small sentence. Something changed for the KF in the past few days at a high level. Government officials who tested the technology will confirm it to other governments. At point of change for humanity, officials will open doors, bring change, cannot be stopped. Do you recall that part of Thursday's class?
That's a very huge statement with a lot of expansion for meaning of what's about to happen and has already happened.
So we're understanding the intensity of the world situation, and we're seeing how the universal community for this planet is impotent. It's a straw man, show only, cheap talker. But 2014, we had a real serious problem, really serious problem. And this was before I joined the Keshe Foundation, actually. So I was like everybody else. I didn't know. I was in shock, and I watched it. And what was really interesting was that we were all taking the pictures for granted, not understanding that these were satellite images. And we know that the satellite images are not generally shown on television, except these were, because they had an intended purpose.
Today is the 25th of January 2014. The situation with Fukushima and the accident which has happened in the Daiichi nuclear power plant has gone beyond the control. We have tried to negotiate with International Atomic Energy Authorities and TEPCO, the owners and the operators of the nuclear reactor, in trying to find a way that we can allow a new method of approach to start, that it can help the Fukushima people, not only the farmers, but the environment, and at the same time the contamination in the sea. The reality is there is a simpler way to extract nuclear materials from the land and from the sea and from the water contamination. This is an unknown technology which has been in the possession of the KAKT Foundation for years, and for the first time we have decided to release it public, as we said in our mandate of 2014 roadmap. Priority is Fukushima, and through Fukushima we open new technologies. The situation which we are going to explain and the methods is for the farmers themselves to be able to help themselves individually or as a collective. The cost to decontaminate does not run into less than maybe €1,000, less than $1,000. You can help yourself, and as this contamination is going to be continuous, so you can repeat the same thing every year before you cultivate. You can clean the water on a regular basis. At the same time, the technology will be explained how even TEPCO can clean up the new contamination waters which are arriving in the station every day. The story of this new technology is very much the way we saw with what I call in the contaminations of the waters around Northern Europe too. So this technology can be used further on for land contamination and water contaminations around the world. We start to explain the fundamentals and then we go through it step by step. If we consider every element to be like a plasma, and that's how the shape of a plasma is. Earth, the sun, the moon, but the different shape of it, different size of the plasma. What has happened, if we call, for example, this plasma the plasma of cesium, or this plasma of another nuclear material or another contamination, each one has a certain dimension and certain amount of energy, which we explain energy as gravity and magnetic field. So once we measure the gravitational field, magnetic field, and the energy of the elements, then we can easily understand how these things can be moved and extracted. One of the main points to understand about the work of the KAKT Foundation is that we are a space technology development. What this means, we have not developed this technology for Fukushima. We have not developed this technology for decontamination around the Earth. We have developed this technology to be able to capture these packages of magnetic gravitational fields in the space, to be able to produce food or material in deeper space. As it says, we are very much involved in development of the man in space and not the production of material for earthly use. In space, we can't carry all the food and all the materials with us. So we have developed a technology where we can convert the energies, which we call gravitational and magnetic field, into matter. So what has happened, now we're converting this technology into the use on Earth because of the application and the situation in Fukushima. According to the Japanese government, today there is over 145,000 dislocated people due to Fukushima. And these are going to be dislocated, they're going to be moved, they cannot come back to their lands for maybe 10, 20, 30 years, or if they come back, there will be problems as we've seen. The same problem we see in Niger, where the uranium mines are, and we see a lot of contamination, where most of the nuclear materials of French government arrives, and the local people are getting destroyed very badly through harm, through the uranium contamination and other radioactive materials, which is airborne in the dust. So this is not just application for Fukushima.
So how does this dovetail with the urgency that and the crisis point that the Earth is at right now?
We all heard his warning that he issued. if they ever used nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
So this is not just application for Fukushima. So this is not just application for Fukushima. Let's go through this step by step. What has happened in Fukushima is that tons, we estimate about 160 tons of highly radioactive material, uranium, plutonium, and others, have literally blown into the air. And what they've done, they have contaminated and mixed within the soil. It has come in a very simple way, and further on, they have mixed themselves into the water. They are part of the structure, and they sit there as energy packs. They sit there as material, what we call radioactive material. What has happened now is that this water, contaminated water, has mixed itself with more radioactive material, new compositions with the water. So we have, what we received is a mixture of two: more radiation, more materials. And this story will carry on for years to come. But the whole contamination, the whole process, all these materials can be extracted very easily. We do this in a space. Now we are showing it how it can be done in a very easy way by the farmers. If you're a farmer, it's very easy. I'm sure in your farms you have plenty of rusted nails. It's very simple. You have rusted iron bars. You have wires in different shapes and forms. You have pieces of metals in any shape or form. Most probably you have a lot of copper pipes and everything else which is hanging around. There are pieces of metals which are sitting around. There are literally chicken barbed wires in your farms which you've been using. All these can be used to turn the situation in Fukushima. How is done? We explain this as a breakthrough technology, and we explain in details how simply you can change the situation. Look for whatever you have in metals, because the rustier the material is, the better results you're going to get in absorption. Because what this is oxidated, which means it's literally metals which are rusted. Copper you cannot rust, but you can find different conditions with it. The same with the metals, with the mesh. If you find a good combination of materials as farmers, you can use them very simply. We have to create conditions. Earth was not created because somebody took different measures and amounts of different materials to put together. The conditions were created, certain materials came together and led to creation of this planet. The same thing is with the world of science in plasma technology. We create conditions, and our conditions should give or let us reach the point where we can create or develop or be able to produce new materials. So, what we've done in a very simple way. We have looked at every opportunity what people around the world have been using and have the accessibility to, and they've been telling us for years what they've been doing. We listen, we don't use some of the processes, we use some of the processes. So how you can change the situation? These are the rusty nails. These are the chicken mesh wires. You can get the wires. Any material which can be processed. This is a very simple material. It's called caustic. If you use caustic in a very, very simple way, for about a kilo of caustic, you can produce at least half a ton of a right material. All you do, you spray the caustic at the bottom, and very simply add boiling water. So you need the heat generators. If you can have a look inside, the process is literally a boiling process. What this does, this creates the right condition and environment for the nano oxides to be produced in the right way, but not just with caustic. There is a process. You have to close the gap, close the container, and leave it for 24 hours minimum. The material needs time to do its work. After 24 hours, all you need to do is to empty the container. Then do not touch. Make sure you do not touch the material much. You can drain it, or you can use a different composition of containers. We recommend the use of plastic because you get certain results with plastic. Then what you do, you transfer the materials from the container where you left the material for over 24 hours into an environment which is electrically conductive. Another wire mesh on the bottom. You put all the material on a table or a mesh, as I've done here. Very simply, you have to keep the condition very moist. When you place the material on a conductive plate like this, you need one process to be added. You have literally to add a very, very small amount of voltage across the materials. So what you need, if you look at the condition, the voltage which shows you create the electrical condition. This has to be on impulses of just for randomly between 5 to 10 seconds. You withdraw the current, you withdraw the voltage, and then what you do, you leave it for approximately 5 to 7 hours. You come back again, in 5 or 7 hours, you create another small current. You do this process 3-4 times over 24 hours. So even a small battery connected to the plate creates the right condition for the electric current to flow. What does this thing do? What does this process do? This process allows nano layers to be produced from under to the top of the material. So what you create in a very simple way is nanomaterials at zero cost. Scientifically has proven, scientists in Russia and in other part of the world have shown how nanomaterials can be used for decontamination, but they do not know how to produce it in an easy way and cheap way. Now you have seen how it's been done. We have used this method nearly over 7 years. We do it for different purposes. Now you can do it yourself in the farm. Total cost, less than $10–15 to produce as much material. Then we show the next process, what you have to do. What we're going to show is what we have produced and how you produce materials with one of the most expensive considered nanotechnologies in the world, which costs only a few cents.
So this was 2014, before the blueprint teachings at the Keshe Foundation, and obviously before the Cups of Life, which were distributed in January 2020 in China. So the only reason that we are all under great stress right now around the world is because not enough people have access to the technology, and preceding that, not having enough awareness of the technology, because the awareness comes first. And so in the absence of the technology, we live with fear. And that fear is now being transferred to others who have actually been suppressing the technology. And the time is running out. But that's not the only show, because the show has hit the road. The third stop on this road trip is going to be Japan. And what is important to understand is that the Keshe Foundation has never been paid for this work. In fact, it has never been acknowledged. And in the past few months, they have been releasing the water from the storage containers at Fukushima, and a lot of people around the world are alarmed because in their mind, there's no treatment for radioactive water. But, we've known all along that within a very short few days, that radioactive water was neutralized using these technologies and these techniques that Mr. Keshe has been describing in these videos back in 2014. And so that was unbeknownst to me at the time. It's unbeknownst to a lot of people even today. And so it's been the Knowledge Seekers workshops I've been running for over 10 years. And the majority of the world still is unaware. Well, the Book of Excuses has been closed. And in the famous words of Janis Joplin, now we're going back. We were laughed out of town, and now we're going back. So London is the first stop. Japan will be the third stop. And there's going to be another stop in between. And that stop is in a place called Sanya. And this is a picture of downtown Sanya. And you can call it up on Wikipedia and look at this page as I've shown here. But it's an interesting playground for the rich and famous. And here it is on the map. It gives you an idea of where it is. And this is going to be the second stop. And there's going to be a fourth stop. I don't know where the next stop is going to be after that, but the fourth stop is going to be a very important stop, and that is going to be in the United States. And while all this roadshow is going on, we will be rolling out 100 centers for the Universal Body Enhancement Units, what we call the wellness centers. So, is it welcome? Or is it feared? I guess it all depends on which side of history you're on. I'm going to forego the review system because of technical difficulties that we've had today. But I've covered one of the most important things that I've wanted to cover today, and that is to have a sense of understanding of the timing, the magnitude of the current situation. And as I say, I can't exaggerate the importance of the situation. It is the fourth ambassadors meeting. And you say, well, you keep doing the same thing, you expect different results. Well, the truth of the matter is we're not doing the same thing. We're doing it differently. And we are definitely expecting different results. This is an open forum. Anybody's welcome to join in.
Alex, we were talking about the brain and the change coming, more to become a sphere. Do you think it's going to be very, very quick that will happen? Depending on our technology.
Well, according what was revealed a few sessions ago, a few knowledge seekers workshops ago, yes, it is going to be very quick. But the rate of change is it's not a universal rate of change. It's dependent on the participant. So it depends on the field strength, depends on their receptivity, the susceptibility, and the attitude of welcoming. And one of the things that I found a little bit concerning, I was on one of the recent sessions, the special monthly sessions that we have with the soul, and the comment was that I think we had about 60 participants, and that it was a 100% success. And this was absolutely important because 99% wasn't enough. If you had one person who was not receptive to the whole thing, that they could disrupt the whole session. And I found that disconcerting because, again, it's the majority would be, is what do they say, a dollar is being held up by a nickel. But with this technology, everyone's on this equal. And so the success rate is going to be far greater. I guess there's always a possibility of there being a lack of failure, but what we really have to look at right now is that with the wellness centers, they are specific to the individual. And different individuals have different health issues, different conditions, different psychosomatic conditions, different circumstances. But if we were to, say, target a specific condition, so let's say an injury, and everyone who is attending that would have the same injury, then I think we can do in a different rate of change. So instead of doing one by one, maybe we can do 1,000 at a time. Maybe we can do 10,000 at a time. I don't know what the limit is, because one of my concerns is that there may be disruptors in there. But the fact of the matter is, when we look at the polarization that happened between those who were vaccinated and those who were unvaccinated, and it was extreme. I don't know. I'm open to comments, but I know in my area that it was. I won't say violent, but it was a harsh division, a harsh social division, and this became even more harsh when it was within a family. And so you have some members of the family who are vaccinated and some who are not, and then the pressure that is put on those who don't, and it's really distressing. It's abuse. It's a heavy duty abuse. So the individual's free will and self-determination was being imposed upon, and in many cases violated. And then, of course, to hear the comment that, everyone had a choice. Well, you always have a choice when the gun is at your head, don't you? You either comply or you don't. So we have come now to a different set of choices, a new set of choices that most of us are unaware of. And I think that the key point that we want to put across universally as knowledge seekers is that we are living in the comfort of knowing that we have a choice. That's the only comfort that we have. But there are many who have absolutely no comfort whatsoever. They're living in the pool of sweat from the impending global disaster. But a funny thing has happened within the last few days, where some countries are actually considering a pause in the activities, at least willing to consider it, maybe even talk about it. But the problem is that minute by minute, there are casualties. And so whether those casualties come about as a result of war, or those casualties come about from injuries and continue because of inaction on the part of those who are responsible, or even on the part of people who have the capability and the technology, like us. There was a moment that I was looking at a family crisis, and we were looking at being forced to do something, and it was very expensive. It would have helped a member of the family out. And the bottom line was, how would you feel in the future if you had the opportunity to do something and you decided to forego that opportunity? How would you feel? And compare that, how you would feel that if you took that opportunity and maybe you still failed, but the possibility existed that you would succeed. And so entertaining the feeling of having the opportunity and not taking advantage of that, it was actually unacceptable, greatly unacceptable. Because at that point, that feeling rested with yourself. It wasn't a matter of social acceptance. It wasn't a matter of, being rejected. It was a matter of personal intention, personal wish, and it went right down to the soul. But that's not universal in all cases. And the reason I say that is because there are some decisions that we have to make that, are very, well, let's say, call them difficult. So let's say, for instance, you are living somewhere and you don't want to leave that place, regardless of the abuse. But there's always the excuse that you can't leave that place. But what if suddenly you got an opportunity to leave that place? Would you still hang your hat on that excuse, or would you say, oh, well, now that that excuse is gone, I don't need to be married to this physical location? Which leads us to the next question. If we're on the brink, which we are on the 24th of November, looking at the transmutation, expansion of the transmutation process with respect to the souls, and if we're suggesting that we can go somewhere, the question would be, where would you go? Let's take an example. You're relaxing at home with your family and say, what do you want to do tonight? Oh, want to go to a movie? Oh, I don't know. I don't want to go to a movie. Why don't we just sit at home and make some popcorn and watch a movie on TV. And so, maybe those are the only kind of choices. And it's kind of a nice thing to do, a nice family type thing. What about another choice? How about, why don't we go and visit our friends on another continent? It's Saturday night. Maybe it'd be nice we can go visit them. Or we need to be in the same time zone, so let's just stay on the continent. Let's go to another city. And let's say that city is 1,000 miles away. Yeah, we'll just go for night. What if that choice was presented? Well, why limit that to that choice? How about what would happen is, let's go visit someone on a different planet. It's Saturday night, maybe the place will be rocking over there too. So if the possibility comes that you can travel and distance is not a factor, and time therefore is not a factor, now all of a sudden you have different choices, which actually begets the question, the location that you're at and married to and not willing to relinquish at some point in time prior to you being born, you were in a different location. And so to come to this location, you had to relinquish that other location. And now that you're in this location, do you need to stay attached to that location? You can relinquish that location just the same way and go to another location. But what is the common denominator? And that is safety. Going to a location of safety. Because you need to predetermine the safety aspect of that. And this is what is so beautiful about the universal community. The universal community functions with an ethos and an intention of peace. And it's not a condition based on location, time, or distance. It's just a universally accepted way of doing things. And we're at this moment of change. And the rate of change is also going to change. Not the same for all of us. But things are going to be really, really different. And my question to you on the panel here today is, are you really ready for this? Or are you warm and comfy? Warm and you don't want to hear this because it would rock your world. It would upset your world. It wouldn't be so warm and fuzzy. Well, does it have to be warm and fuzzy? Can't it be exciting and peaceful? I'm just asking. Because I'm having to contend with that myself. We've all had to contend with that, and we've all come through it. But not in the physicality, not in the condition that we're in. And for years we've been told that, we're inferior. Well, I now believe that the aspect of physicality is a feature, an enhancement. It's not a shift from the soul aspect to the physical aspect. It's an added feature to the soul aspect. And so this technology is not only going to be good for us as physical participants in our soul experience, but it will also be beneficial to others who want to experience the same thing that we're experiencing and can't. And we know that because when we ran the test in Linz, we had visitors. And it's just mind-boggling to figure out, well, you know, you needed the enhancement units to visit us. You wanted to visit us. We're the ones who want to get out of Dodge. You know, we're living in a terrible environment here, and we want to leave. And you want to come here? You're tourists? Tourists, you want to come here? Yeah, because they came in safety. And they stayed in safety. And so we can transmute in safety. And so maybe you won't worry about Saturday night. Maybe it'll be Monday morning. But remember, Saturday night is Saturday Earth night. It's only relevant to Earth. When they say it's a mind-blowing session, it really is a mind-blowing session, because now you're not restricted. Say, well, you know, we just finished supper and, you know, we've got a few hours before bedtime. You know, what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? Well, I don't know. What do you want to do? I hope my questions aren't making you uncomfortable. We are faced with a, you know, radical change in how things are operating.
We all know the change is coming. But like you said earlier, when the change is here, and it may come in the blink of an eye, oh boy, what do I do now? I was faced with that dilemma when I was living in Thailand, and we were trying to get flights out of Thailand to come back to Canada. I got a phone call Monday morning. The plane's leaving Wednesday morning. So in 2 days, you have to figure out what you're taking back home. And it's very difficult to make that kind of a decision, because it's not just you. We were traveling as a family. So we had to do everything. Everybody wanted to take so much stuff. So everybody's only got so many suitcases. So what is priority? What is important? So those were very interesting times. And they ended up coming back with the same thing as when I went 20 years earlier. One suitcase was my computer. The other suitcase was books. The other suitcase was clothes. So what changed? The experience along the way. That's what changed. But until that moment, oh my God, I have just this certain amount of time to figure out what I take and what I leave. So that's, I think, what we're facing as humanity in this coming next few days, because the energies are changing. Everything. Look at today. Look what we tried to do today. We tried to have a meeting. Everything was against us until we all pooled together and figured out what to do. But we did it. And next week, let's hope there's not a repeat of the same.
Okay. Roger. My more relevant comment is there was a point between those 2 days as you were preparing to leave where the reluctance to leave, in other words, was extremely strong. Would you agree?
What do you mean? So
Absolutely. I'm leaving
Yeah.
my home. That was in terms of, if I look at my life cycle, that was the longest time I ever spent in one place in my entire life. Except for living at home, of course. But like you said, the resistance. But once you got past that resistance, everything just, it seems like the universe just, it opened up and everything went perfect.
But that emotion that you felt at that particular time, wouldn't you agree would be the same emotion that someone had when the bank foreclosed on your mortgage?
Yes.
And evicted you?
Yes.
Yeah, I've been through that. It's a horrible experience. And actually, I was forced to leave, and where I went, I wasn't too happy with, because it wasn't my desirable choice. It was process of elimination. It was the only choice I had. But then came another choice, and I grabbed it. And looking back, I have mixed emotions about it, because on the one hand, it took me from a path that I was quite happy with, and it took me on another path that, logically saying, I would have never chosen. But I allowed myself to choose that path because it was an experience that I hadn't contemplated. It's like when the teacher asks you in grade 3, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you say, well, I want to be a fireman. Oh, really? Did you know that there were other jobs out there? Maybe, you wanted to be an ambassador to some country. Can you imagine if you said that to the teacher? No, I'm going to be an ambassador to Thailand. So you didn't know that you had that experience. But I can tell you the one thing, the place I went to, I'm not sure how safe it was. It's a lot safer. It was a lot safer back then than it is today. And it was minus 30 degrees Celsius. So I think when you left Thailand, it was what, plus 30 degrees Celsius?
Yes. Coming back from plus 30 just back into 60 above. I froze for about a year until I get used to it again.
Well, I got to tell you, I wore extra layers for a long time, many months, because it was way too cold for me. But this was the new experience, so I kind of went with the flow and I let it happen. And from that regard, I'm happy, because how can you compare what's to you is a good experience or a bad experience if you haven't experienced the alternatives? And I think this is where we're all at. We're all saying, Well, we're in a nice, comfy place here on Earth, and there's a few hooligans out there who are causing, a lot of problems. But, because of the profound changes that were coming through, these hooligans are starting to play with matches, and they don't have the skill set to do that. And we don't apparently have a solution for that if we're in the absence of the, shall we say, the plasma technology from the Keshe Foundation. In the presence of that technology, I'm calm. I'm not happy with the fact that the hooligans are still playing with matches. But the thing is that we do have a solution. And as for them, the sense of urgency is becoming acute. It's like a chess game. They could force us into another situation as well. But the situation at that point would be by their hand. And that's the whole point, because you cannot force peace. It's self-defeating. But, in the face of belligerence, at that point, you have no choice. The net result, however, is that decision would be made by the soul. And at that point, that would be a welcoming decision. And this is the message that we have to get across. Because referring back to Andrew Brigden's little dissertation there, if you notice how calm he was, because in his mind, all is lost. And so there's no point being frenetic about it. But he has had to resort to some kind of hope. He hung his hat on a hope. And the question in my mind, is he aware, as we are, of the impending science? Or is it just blind hope in the benevolence of the universe? And the result is the same. Peace and solitude and serenity, and being on the right side of history, because that's the side of growth. Everything that we talk about is growth, progression, leaving the nursery and getting ready to not only travel, but to teach to the rest of the universe, teach the proper life's lessons, taking into account the ethos. This is going to have profound changes. I listened to this video many times. What's struck me today, and you know how you always hear something different. Mr. Keshe mentioned the problem in Niger with the uranium mine there. And this video was done in 2014. And what's in the headlines today but the country of Niger? And when I first heard that video, I didn't know where Niger was, and I didn't know what it meant. It was just another comment. But now I see the significance of it, not just for the population of Niger, but also for the French population. Knowing that France controls 85% of the nuclear reactors in Europe. You take that into account, and we can see how serious the situation is. So, yeah, it's a profound time, very exciting time, and we'll have stories to tell our grandchildren. and remember that the one most important part of that story is that you were there at this moment, at this event, at this watershed moment. You were there.
Sorry, I was trying to open my microphone. I couldn't.
Hello, how are you?
Hello, how are you? Good. I was trying a long time. Last Saturday, when I was talking, after talking, the same thing happened. My computer just froze. Now the microphone is not working. I want to talk when you asking about the what can we do that situation. So we can do meditation and pray. Whatever we can do, we need to do. Alex, did you finish your talk, or I just interrupting inside middle of something?
Oh, no, please carry on.
Okay, thank you. I want to see total situation is different way. We know we have a lot of past life regression, right? A lot of children, they remember their past life, right? They're in Japan. There was Japan and other countries in the world. They died and then they reborn. So right now the situation, which one we are talking about, this one, the people in power, they know what is going on, but they're doing their stuff. And then the general people who are suffering, they're not saying anything. That is the main point. It is not safe for this side or that side if they want to remove the people from there. You understand? Nobody is safe if they are separate. You know, lot of poor country, India, Bangladesh, and other, they're not only poor or something, their culture is different. So they live together. They have Hindu, Christian, Buddhist, Jew, and all kinds of people in there. But they never fight. They don't want their land alone. The majority doesn't want. They want to live together. But now this situation is totally different. Why are they doing this? They know this is not safe for anybody, not this part or that part, but they're doing. Who are doing? We are not finding those people. Who are they and why they are doing? We are not finding the root cause. That's why it's happening. And if we see the bigger picture, the other way, we are all universal soul. So we're born everywhere, in every land. I think so. In my experience, we live in a lot of bodies, So we are not separate. Everything is one way or another way. But we don't want to say that. We don't want to feel that. But it is happening every day in our life. But we don't want to see. And from my experience, I understood everything is brainwave. If we slightly change our brainwave, if we change our vibration a little bit, we go to different places. So what is that? It means if we majority change our brainwave, our consciousness, our vibration, we will be in other dimension, other place, not physically other place, but this place will be changed, maybe. But we are not doing that. And they are keeping us busy So we can't do that. They want we don't, they don't want, we do that. But our freedom is there. Our freedom is in different brainwave, different in different vibration, not in the same position which one we are right now. So it is simple. The technology with us, we know that, we feel that, we understand that, but we are not doing. And then we are letting those people to do the bad stuff to us. We are not enough weak. That is the main problem. My understanding, and I know most of you understand that too. So problem is in other place. We need to change. That's it. That is all. Thank you.
That's very beautiful. So the rate of change is really the key point here, and the field strength. So our field strength now has come up to the point where it rivals, and a lot of people only understand competition. So it becomes a game, a competition, looking for a winner. Well,
Yes.
and there is no winning or losing. That's a game is entertainment. We're not talking about entertainment here. We're talking about way of life, quality of life, and the purpose of life. And so we are at the precipice now, where a week from now, that rate of change will change, and it will change in our favor. It has already changed, in fact. That's the whole point. And so we can sit here today and say, so this is Sunday, November the 5th in November in North America. And all is good. But tomorrow will be another day, and the day after will be another day. And every day will be one day closer to November the 11th, and it will happen. It's unstoppable. So
Yes.
for a lot of people, this is a moment of trepidation. But for us, it's also a moment of trepidation because it puts a huge responsibility on the knowledge seekers. But that should not be a burden. We now have tools and we have support. And as we said earlier on, something has happened to change things this week. So that excludes December the 16th, 2022. That excludes February, where we provided food security. That excludes the Memorandum of Understanding, which was ratified with the Chinese government in May. So something else has happened, which has added. And this could be a real change, in the field strength. And so this is, I can't get overly excited about it because we've been so disappointed for so long. So it's not like winning the lottery, a surprise. We've worked for it. We've earned it. We prayed for it. We wished for it. But we don't wish for it on our behalf. our behalf is a given. We wish for it on the behalf of our neighbors. Because if we want to be prosperous, our neighbors have to be prosperous. So wish it for them. And then that wish will come true for you. So we're at the point now where we are going to be sharing this with our neighbors. Any comments? I hear someone in the background very faintly. Josepha, is that you? Well, Josepha, we can't hear you now. So what's interesting is Selena was saying that she had computer problems. We're having a hard time hearing you. So you're having computer problems, and we had problems getting this meeting started today. So that was a Gail laugh.
Yes.
And what's really funny is that of all the panelists here, I think Gail has been kicked off the panel more times than anybody. Right?
But for some reason, my mind is so steady. It's unbelievable.
It is. It's great. I wonder if it has something to do with there's something that happened in South Africa this week, something very important. Do you recall what that was?
In South Africa.
Well, there was
yeah, go ahead.
There was a confrontation with Mr. Ramaphosa, is it?
You mean Cyril? Yes. Our esteemed leader, yes.
There was some kind of confrontation on the diplomatic level. Anyway, so
well,
he was flexing.
We're so used to it. Doesn't mean anything. I'm sorry for that, but it's just the way it is.
Well, every one of us is entitled to be self-deprecating for our own country, right?
Yeah.
It's when another country is, insulting you. That's when you get indignant. But
yeah, well, life is so interesting. We have so many different cultures too, and I guess I've become sort of immune to even getting excited about it. But I just wanted to say something that comes to me. I stated a couple of times that I don't necessarily like competition, and some of the games, football games and so on, to me are nonsensical in a way, because it is extreme competition. It's almost like the way that people start to behave when they're there, and the damage that playing the game does. For me, I prefer to compete with myself. If I'm trying to improve in some way, then I will try to, let's say there's a marathon. If I attend a marathon, it's not to win against other people. It's to go and in my own way to enjoy. I may not want to run fast. I might just want to be there and enjoy the run. So, we have everything. If you look at the world, it all seems to be competing and wanting to outdo and be better than the other guy. I don't like that. And so for me, I would like it to be a win-win. And I think if we're going to have a few difficulties because of this overly zealous competition, I guess.
Have you
And
have you ever watched a marathon?
of course, yes.
Did
Why?
you feel any uh, outstanding emotional feelings?
Mm. If I see someone, they're trying, it's not that they win, but that they want to complete it, and maybe they have some difficulties, but no matter how difficult it is, they continue and finish. And then for that person, I would cheer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I had that experience too. We had the Olympics in Canada, and I was attending that, and I think that was 50 years ago. But we were watching, and I don't really care much for track and field because I was more into team sports. So I played soccer. And so to me, a marathon was exactly like what you said. It wasn't a competition so much against others. And the problem with this competition is that there's only one winner. The rest are all losers, you see,
Exactly.
right? But
Yeah.
it started in the morning, and the marathon lasted a little over 2 hours. And frankly, it was quite amazing because we watched the start and we watched. I didn't manage to get into the stadium, but we watched them leave the stadium and then we watched them come back into the stadium. And then for the rest of the tour, we watched on television, closed circuit TV, to see the whole race. And it was amazing how fast the 2 hours went by. I mean, your head was on a swivel all the time, checking out the action. But when the winners came, the majority of people lost interest. But the race still kept going, and it kept going till sundown.
Wow. Yeah. So we have to look at social engineering and how to have win-win situations instead of one winner and everybody else losing.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. It was twilight, and the guy's crossing the finish line.
Yeah, and they don't quit.
I think he took I don't know, 6 to 8 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the only time I ever watched a marathon, but it was extremely moving. And every other time before that, and every other time since, I just mm, actually, it didn't cause me to be more interested in it. It just uh, we were always tuned to focus on the winner. Or here's the first place, second place, third place, or here's a guy sprinting, trying to get up in ranks, trying to catch a medal, and but he carries them over the line, that kind of thing. But to see the guy coming.
This is all programming. I don't
Well, yeah, but
know
it was a personal victory for him, and it was a real lesson that he taught all of us, right?
Mhm.
The indomitable spirit. And when I say that, I think of Cameroon, the indomitable lions, and how they've been, really subdued. Go ahead, Randy.
Well, when they never interview, they only interview the first or second or third runner in things, or in many sports, but they never interview the guy that come last, and they never get his opinion. And there's this one series that I watch where they do this with cars. They drive all over the place in the race cars. They put them on the street. So they interviewed everybody. And one guy said, I don't care if I win or lose. It's the experience of the camaraderie with the people, and it's the experience of completing the journey. So everyone that completed this journey, because they just went through Death Valley, is a winner. So that's the kind of attitude, I think, if everybody took that attitude, things would change very quickly.
Yes, 100%. 100% true.
So, ladies and gentlemen, have we had enough for today?
I guess you have.
Don't worry about me. My promise to myself was fulfilled. I showed up today.
Yeah.
And we came together as a team to help everybody else out. And we won. We're at the finish line. Or are we? Or are we just beginning?
The springboard? Okay, I thank you all for making this happen. And what else can I say?
Well, thank you for seeing it through.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you. And
Yes.
thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Alex.
Thank we.
Thank we.
Yes, thank we. We did this together as one.
So the next time we meet, we're going to be on the other side of the watershed.
Yes, definitely.
So I'm going to leave you with an assignment.
Pay attention.
No. How does it feel to be on the other side of the fence? Is the grass really greener?
Maybe.
Oh my. And thank you all for allowing me to present today, and thank you all for being here. It's one of the most important things that I've ever done in my life.
Well,
This
thank
is
you.
This is the KESH North American Knowledge Team meeting, November the 5th, 2023. And I'll sign out at this point. Thank you all for making this all possible.
Alex,
Hello.
can we play the disclaimer?
Sure.
Do you have it handy, or do you want me to do it?
Yeah, I have it handy. I just have to just a moment. Where is it? This disclaimer is. I'm just trying to find it on my list here. I just have to click on it. Okay. Okay. There we are. I got it. Here we go. Good night, everybody.
Good night, Alex.
Good night, everyone.
Disclaimer. The information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GAN's processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.